Hey, let me do a quick review of Prrt and Olvr in America by Peter Carey. Peter Carey, a two-time Booker Prize-winning author. This was a finalist for this book was a finalist for the National Book Award in the United States, which is appropriate since Peter Carey now kind of resides in, I believe, New York. And this is very much a book about America, about early America. This is just post the Revolution America, where Olvr, a character who is very closely modeled on Alexander de Tocqueville, who came to the United States and wrote a very famous book, Democracy in America, which is still kind of cited today as one of those books of, like, considering the idea of democracy at a time when it was the new kid on the block. It was seen as something that was maybe dangerous, or something the new, the new, especially coming from a aristocratic Frenchman who did support the French Revolution, but was kind of despised on both sides, both by his aristocratic fellows who thought he was a kind of a traitor to his class, and also distrusted by those below him who thought, yeah, well, how could he be siding? So yeah, it's story of him coming to America and his observations. It was sort of a way of getting out of town while it was too hot. Especially, we'll focus just on Olvr here. Getting out of town, his mother deciding it was too hot for him here, that he was in danger of, the dark parts of the French Revolution, of getting executed during that. And Prrt, a Englishman who we learn through his point of view. The book is divided into both Olvr parts and Prrt parts. And Prrt is very much the lower class, a father who was engaging in kind of covert counterfeiting stuff, was swept upon by aristocratic lord who, the father didn't work out well for the father. He, being rescued by this mysterious Frenchman, ends up in Australia for a while, eventually back in France, where he gets assigned to be Olvr's minder. The real Alexander Tocqueville had a aristocratic companion that he went with, but that in this book, that aristocratic companion dies, does not make it, and Prrt comes along, and they have a very antagonistic relationship. Olvr, for all his kind of theoretical stuff about democracy, also is someone who doesn't really have much use for the lower classes and gives Prrt a lot of trouble. Prrt, being someone of fairly kind of a revolutionary kind of, nothing commoner than a nothing commoner than a commoner from the colonial commoner from the colonies. And I mean, this is no longer the colonies. Prrt takes along his French mistress, who is an artist in her own right. And this is sort of a book about Prrt. It's one of these things of, the writing in this book is beautiful. We get a lot of, two very different worlds of both Prrt and Olvr, about how they view America, how they view each other. Olvr, I think, is for the most part is painted as a fairly comic character, where he's a bit of a buffoon. He really doesn't know what the hell's going on. And he is distrustful of this new American democracy. Prrt, I'm trying to even remember now. Prrt is one of these guys who learns more about himself, becomes a bit of a better person throughout this book, to a degree. I have to say, it's one of these books that I probably delayed too long in actually reviewing, and I'm not going to release this. This is just my own kind of housekeeping. But Prrt is one of these guys at the end who kind of sets down his own roots, kind of lets go of stuff about his father, about being tossed to Australia, and makes a bit more of himself in America. And there's a lot of good scenes here of kind of seeing early American democracy. It's the idealism as well as the corruption, the the very much the thing of individuality, of capitalism, of the restlessness that de Tocqueville talks about, the restlessness that no one's satisfied where they are, and the kind of how that breeds energy into a society, but also brings a lot of kind of chaos into the society. And indeed, this novel ends on a very certain date, which, if you look at it, is kind of probably one of the key examples until you get up to something like the Great Depression and stuff like that, of the dangers of that mix of democracy and capitalism that's embodied in a place like the United States and Canada as well. It's like Prrt starts off this thing as an unwilling servant, and by the end he's no longer a servant. Maybe that is a key thing of Prrt. This is Prrt's liberation in this book, whereas for Olivier kind of is, in the end he goes back to France, which isn't a spoiler for this book. Tocqueville went back to France. He was an observer of the United States. He is linked with it in a lot of ways through those observations and those cautions about democracy, but he's not of it. And his failed love affair with a woman is definitely a kind of both a literal and a metaphorical expression of that failed relationship that he had with the United States. Okay, I will leave it there. It's not a book. It's a book that I enjoyed reading, but it's probably not going to be something that sticks with me as much. It's one of these books I probably need to go and listen to other people talk about what they got out of it and how it did, and it probably will awake all the memories of the stuff I should have said in this review, but didn't. Be that as it may. I'll leave it there. More videos later.